don't know me, I'm Papa Lucifer. Papa Lucifer Somni, co-therapist, shaman, healer, and the owner of being the most destructive force in my life. The owner of being the most destructive force in my life. As we get situated, I wanted to get into, throughout the week, we've been getting to the aspects and the points of basically seeking success. One thing that we've been getting into is that internal argument, your percentage, how are you making your money, how are you existing, all of those nice little things that you've been looking at and dealing with and upset about and all that good stuff in your space. And we've been looking at those things for the last, let me do some inviting real quick. You've been looking, you've been searching, you've been seeking, you've been in that current state of being with yourself, wondering why in your life right now, why it's where it's at. For some reason or other, you looking right now, my life is not where it needs to be. But every day that you wake up, you got a choice. As I'm sitting here hitting this button, you have a choice. Based on your choice, you got some conditions that are going to come up. Based on those conditions, the options are going to pop up. The options can be seen as opportunities or as obstacles. That means how far you want to go inside of yourself, what you want to deal with. But the ultimate aspect is everything's a result that you can go seek for something. Everything you're trying to go for, there's a result for it. Everything you're trying to seek has a result. Here's the key. Here's the key to me understanding the aspect of my assignment. What I'm supposed to be doing while I'm down here. Shooting it. I was told in my assignment, take heads. Take heads. Destroy any aspect of what used to be in that space. That's what I've been assigned to do. To take heads. That's what I've been assigned to do. If you come to me for services, you know that I take heads. You don't leave the same way that you do not leave from my space the same way that you came in. You don't leave the same way that you came in. You can, if you came in acting, you ain't gonna be leaving out acting. That is a part of my process as I was doing my shedding. The thing that we think about is seeking success. In seeking success, you have a definition that's pre-lined in your mind based on what you thought success was. You thought you knew what a successful relationship was. You thought you knew what a successful friendship was. You thought you knew what was successful based on what you knew. So you seeked everything inside of your space based on, here's the difference. Were you intellectualizing? That means keeping it in a state of theory so you don't have to take accountability for it? Or were you really going through the process of unlocking the intelligence? Or simply wanting to do, simply wanting to learn that childlike mindset? Which one have you been doing? I can say honestly for myself that doing my shadow work, going through the intensive process, doing transmutation, doing the aspects of building, I had to shatter. You're going to have to shatter everything that you thought in order to assess the pieces of what came together to what you thought was success. I made a post before, I made 3 posts, and I made a long one before I even came on into the attitude of where you're at. Every agenda, every community, every every aspect of your life. Whether you go to YouTube, whether you on Facebook, whether you're on Instagram, no matter where the fuck you going, is an absolution of the results of your own internal mindset. Where your mind is at, where your energy is going. I had to accept that. This is something that I had to accept. Not just acknowledge, as we talked about last week, not just acknowledge it, not just go to a state of acceptance with it, like, okay, I've accepted it. I had to really apologize to myself for not knowing what I know now. If you were to look at me and ask me the question from even who I was at 9 a.m., I'm going to show you how fast this shit works once you accept it, when you go into the state of acceptance. Even who I was at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, when we stick in this aspect, at 9 a.m., the person that I was at 9 a.m., the things I did at 9 a.m., from the state of me, let's talk about last year, years before that. Let's talk about who I was at 9 a.m. in 2018. Let's talk about who I was in 9 a.m. I'm creating these axiom points. Who I was at 9 a.m. 2016. Who I was at 9 a.m. on a Friday in 2015. Who I was at 9 a.m. in 2008, 2003, 2001, when I graduated high school. Those are the points of my axiom. Every success is based on, it's not what you're receiving or what you're getting. It's the lesson that you receive. The aspect of you going into the flow is accepting everything that comes into your space and doing the work with it. When, as long as you have this idea in your mind that you are owed some shit, somebody owes you, you don't even realize how you use that thought process based on because you've been hurt. Somebody hurt you. You were done dirt, you were done wrong, the traumatic experience, the shit that's laying in your shadow. And now you just keep creating variations of everything you said while you was in that space, created a thought form or lived in the void of your shadow. So when we're talking about this aspect of the shadow work, that's why it's ongoing. Because that's the process. You thinking about, ooh, I made it, that means no, it's a process. I'm going to give you an example. It was actually one of the examples that I used. In a session today. If some chick comes to me and says, I don't like you, nigga, you ain't shit. The first step to me doing this is accepting that I ain't shit. Accept what she said was the truth. I must accept what she said was the truth. I must accept that she said I'm not shit. I don't care about whatever reservations she has. I'm disengaging her ability to project. Let's talk about basic transmutation. I'm disengaging her ability to project. Because I've accepted it. Because that's going to take her offline. Like, oh my God, everything that she says after that is now officially going to be a projection. But for me to get to that point, take some steps. Because the first time she says it, I feel some type of way that she said this shit to me, said that I wasn't shit. I got to go back in my life and see where I wasn't shit. I know I did some things that by the definition of what I know about now with myself, I know I did some ain't shit things. I know I did some bullshit I did some BS. So now I go into my shadow. I go through the process going through my shadow. I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I ain't shit. Why am I not shit? Now I say I accept, okay, yeah. Why am I not shit? Because all you niggas cheat. Now, because it's present, she can't say it now unless it's present. Instead of me trying to be defensive, I don't know what niggas you been with, all that type of shit, trying to intellectualize it, I can use that energy. Yeah, I've cheated. Never on a person, but I've cheated. Cheated on a test. I cheated somebody out of some money. I cheated myself out of some hours at my job. I've cheated myself in some way, shape, or form. And I accept that. So now I go back to that space. Yeah, niggas ain't shit because they cheat, because they do this, this, and this. Now I can go into that space with a clear aspect, new perspective, sitting in my perspective, and now I can understand the potential of that space. Because now I can sit there and be like, yeah, I've cheated before. I've never cheated on anyone, but I've cheated before. I've had some aptitude of cheating. So if that's maybe what you're feeling, but I mean, I can't apologize for them, but where do you want to go from now? I've now set a boundary. Unconsciously, I'm not even thinking about it. I've now reprogrammed the space, set a boundary, and I can walk away from it. I have a choice. I have a choice based on the conditions that have been set, the terms that have been set. Either I can intellectualize it and avoid the shit and then go on a whole rant with my damn self, or I can actually internalize it and take it in. Allow it to go in. This is your process. The lesson. What did I learn? That there's women out here that are still hurt because they're still stuck in the aspects of man and women. That's why that keeps coming into my life. Because somewhere inside of my space, I'm still thinking about the lower concepts of gender being male and female. But I have a higher understanding now that the masculine, or what is produced, that's the trauma. That's the symbol. That's the repetition. The energy that's put into that, that's the feminine aspect. That's the feminine aspect. You feel me? Yeah, like I've never cheated on anyone, but I accept that I, in some way, shape, or form, in my life, I have cheated either myself or in cheating someone else, ultimately cheating myself out of understanding something. Every time, put it like this, every time you are not willing to go deeper inside of yourself, you're naturally cheating yourself. So now inside of your space, the variation inside of your shadow will be every variant from the mental space down into the physical space of cheating. You naturally will seek ways to make it seem like it is a success. I cheated because everything that you're doing is basically going to be seen or perceived to yourself as your definition of success in your program of what you define as success, or how you learn how to become successful. All is based in that internal program. So if I cheated on a test, that's why they say if you cheat once, you'll cheat again. If I cheated on a test, yes, I've cheated on tests. I've cheated on tests. Shit, I got some answers. I looked over at somebody's paper. I own that. I gotta own that. Because if I don't own that, that's what my shadow now takes in with everything else. And now it just reappropriates something into my space to keep me in that state of that balance. Remember, you've always been in balance. You're not out of balance. You're not imbalanced. You're just imbalanced because you're not assessing what you got in balance. You're not assessing what you got you ain't got assessing what's on them scales. You just keep going out and out and out and, oh, I'm going to take this off, put some. You just keep trying to Indiana Jones shit and keep trying to trick yourself into thinking that you're progressing in some shape or form. But everything that you invest with, what is the intention and what's the energy behind it? It don't matter what I was investing in. Because I'll give you this. Think about this. You can sit here and look at Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter, whatever you look at. And you can be like, yeah, it's a program, and they try to shut us down. This is agenda. I don't know about you, but every time that I go on Facebook, this is the result I get. When I go on TikTok, making videos, I know the result. Everything on my TikTok, everybody that I follow on TikTok is either is the lesson or what they're teaching or what they're speaking on. That's what I'm subscribed to. 9 times out of 10, when I got used to applying that rhythm to that, I'm the algorithm, so I apply to it. 9 times out of 10, the shit that I look at on my TikTok, whenever I hear something that's like, I'll give an example. I was learning about the aspects of the whole life insurance policies, or things about generational debt and generational curses, generational wealth, things of that aspect. And I was looking at the life insurance policy, the whole life insurance policies. As I'm listening to the information, with the information that I already have applied, it was a valuable resource. It wasn't about me saying, damn, it wasn't about me becoming disheartened because I'm sitting here in my space and saying to myself, like, damn, I can't afford a whole life insurance policy right now. Or disheartening myself, disengaging the information, and then throwing it away and then go look at some other stupid shit. It was about the reason that that's coming into my space is because it's something that I can apply. There's going to be a result to that application. So the way that I've broken down the whole life insurance policy in previous classes, when I look at a whole life insurance policy and I understand that emotional intelligence and emotional literacy, the byproduct of your emotional literacy or your energy is the byproduct that is your money, your structure, your stability, and your standard. Then I look at how a whole life insurance policy is put together and how you can take money from it and you can basically pay yourself as your own internal bank. When I look at the aspects of understanding shadow work being the synonymous, that underline of my plan, now I'm like, oh shit, nigga, I already got a whole life insurance policy in play. That's the generational debt. That's the generational curse. How do you think, then you go into the narrative and then you go watch, all white people ever did was take credit for shit. They take credit and steal shit. They're not stealing anything. You've already given it to them. But because they only can intellectualize on a lower level, what do you think they would create? And what would you get attached to? Your lack of understanding in yourself means that's why you don't tap into it. Everything comes into your space for the reason that it needs to come in there. But if you're looking at everything as an obstacle, now you want to acquire the debt or the emotional aspect, pay that high sense of debt. You want some emotional, the lower levels of emotional manipulation in order to make some shit fit. So now let's go back to when I said that I cheated on the test, where I cheated myself out of hours, cheated motherfuckers out of money. I've done this shit and I own it. Now I get to look at the results of me cheating myself. I'm only living out a traumatic experience. I'm only living out something that I've already done, a learned behavior. Until I sit with it, I can say, okay, I'm not going to cheat anymore. Until I understand the process, the sequence of why I cheat, why I do it, and go internalize and learn the lesson, if I'm not cheating on a person, I'm going to cheat somewhere. I'm going to seek it. That shadow, that thought form is going to seek it, and the emotions behind it are going to force me to I got a choice. Either I become present with the emotions that lead me to that, or I stay in a sense of relevance. And then I give myself a story. It's like, if you go on YouTube right now, I'm actually going to look at the video later. The dude, if y'all haven't seen the nigga that's talking about the Predator nigga, the nigga that said he feel for R. Kelly in that aspect. He just like R. Kelly. I don't like the term predator. He's trying to intellectualize what he does. And he broke down in the aspects of deflection with himself. This nigga literally, I'm going to look up the video. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to make the post. This nigga literally was like, I don't look for women. I don't look for high school girls or young girls that have good relationships with their parents. I look for the ones that are not, parents aren't in their lives. Those are the ones that I fuck with. He's admitting to what he is, but he's acknowledging what he is, but he has not accepted what he is. So since he has not accepted what he is, he can't apologize for what he is. See, this is where that shit is hilarious. This is where you keep getting stuck in those triggers. This is where a lot of us keep getting stuck in that trigger. The acknowledgement. You acknowledge it, but you haven't accepted it. So think about if you just keep doing that shit over and over and over again. What would be the result of your environment? Every community is an agenda that you set. It's an agenda. It's an agenda. All it is about the seats. It's simply about what seat you sitting in. You triggered by it because you ain't dealt with it with yourself. Because if you accept that in some way, shape, or form that is of you, a variation of you, it might be the echo. But if I haven't accepted inside of the aptitudes with myself that in some way, shape, or form, if I haven't accepted in some way, shape, or form with myself that is a aspect or a variation of my thought process, how I think, then that's what it would look like in a different variation based on somebody else. So let's use the aspect of the predator mindset. The predator mindset naturally seeks what is weaker in order to use it for its own gain. It seeks what is weaker to go for its own gain. Think about your life based on a trauma bond. That's all you do in the trauma bonding. As you trauma bond, you look for the weakness in others. Even when you sit there and say it to yourself, you had a conversation. Think about the conversation you have with yourself. You be sitting there like, what do I look like judging people? I'm going through some things too. And that's what you cling to. That's what you attach to. That thought. So now you got to accept that you're a predator in some way, shape, or form. I had to accept that I was a predator. I had to accept these aspects in order for me to actually do the work. If I don't accept those aspects, acknowledge and accept those aspects, I'm not doing any work. I can intellectualize further avoiding. I can intellectualize in a sense of avoiding. I can avoid all day. I can avoid it all day and intellectualize it. But that intelligence is going to break me. My fear of tapping into my inner intelligences, my demons is going to shake me. Because I'm looking at, so since I'm stuck in that pattern of seeking success based on what I have, the only thing I'm going to look back at all the fucking time is everything that I had. The only reason I don't think earlier on, one of my earliest mantras was, there's no going back. And I attached it that this shit's over. There's no going back. Everything behind me is only useful based on a lesson. Everything behind me is only useful based as a lesson. Every vacation I took, every trip that I went on, every relationship that I was in, everything that I did inside of that space of my old self, the old versions of myself. The only thing that's worth it is the lesson. The only thing that's left is the lesson. If I have not learned the lesson, then I must accept that it's going to show back up. it's going to pop back up. It's going to keep happening. And based on my level of me accepting it, either I'm going to snowball out of control with this shit, or I'm going to take it on. I'm going to face it. You can be stuck at a job for 7 fucking years, 10 fucking years. But there's a different variation inside of your space. You stuck hating your job, and now you got a homegirl or a homeboy stuck hating their fucking relationship. Y'all on the same damn frequency. Both of y'all do the same process of events. That's the only reason y'all can see each other. That's the only reason y'all keep dealing with each other. But when one of y'all say something, this is the aspect of basically going back and forth, you can have a homegirl or a homeboy that literally say, yo, I'm doing this now, I'm doing this now, I'm doing this now. And they telling you their process of thought. But because you aren't understanding which you haven't taken accountability for your own life in that space. It don't matter. It doesn't matter what they're doing. It don't matter if they still fucking with some no good ass nigga or whatever it is. The spirit is literally talking to you through them and telling you some shit. But because you're stuck on the physical image, that if you actually start, damn, they actually said some shit that made sense. You subscribe, since you ain't subscribing to the lesson, you stuck on what the person looked like. But girl, you gotta understand, girl, you gotta get rid of that nigga first. Homie, you gotta get rid of that bitch first. That's gonna come naturally. That shit will come naturally. That's needed. That's their crutch. That's their handicap. I can't tell someone to get rid of their handicap. I can give you suggestions. I can guide you, but like, yeah, like so. But I'm never going to sit here and say, you gotta get rid of that bitch. You gotta get rid. I'm not going to say that to you. Grand evening. I'm not going to say that shit to you. All I can sit here and tell you is, and I was just watching $1 million worth of games. So Kevin Gates was on there. He was like, niggas grow together. Niggas, you gonna grow together or grow apart? You gonna grow together or grow apart? Your natural process of your individual, once you start assessing your individual process, you start to see why things just naturally don't fit no more. That point of reaction where you feel like where your normal self comes up when you want to go make a long ass fucking post talking about my feelings and all of those aspects. Don't do that shit. Don't do that shit. I'm gonna tell you now, stop doing it. Go write it down on real paper with a pencil. Go get a real piece of paper, real pencil, and write that shit out. Write that letter to yourself. Write it to yourself. See, we get so stuck on seeking this success through this state of validation because now you want to intellectualize your feelings. Intellectualizing your feelings and understanding the emotional intellect and emotional intelligence, 2 different points. You can intellectualize why you're mad, but it's always going to be an external X. It's always going to be something external. I'm upset because my nigga isn't shit. I'm upset because my bitch ain't shit. I'm upset because my mom still has not admitted to where my father. You can intellectualize that shit all day. That's relevance. So now everything in your space gonna be based on that relevance I'm always talking about. So you successfully will seek the relevance to your trauma. You will successfully seek the relevance to your trauma. You will success. Yep, that's my progress. And then what you looking at inside of your space. Now you come into the spiritual aspect. You're woke. You're conscious. You're awake. Old paradigm is all that. You looking at the motherfuckers of the old paradigm still arguing about the same shit. And you're like, just so you can say to yourself, see, I don't want to be like that. See, these niggas is stuck. These niggas ain't okay. But you stuck too. That's the only reason you reacted to it. They're there for a reason. If I'm walking down the street and I see, just use this analogy. If I'm walking down the street or driving in the street or riding down the street and there's hookers on the corner, I'm not going to sit there now. I'm not going to sit there and be like, nigga, them hookers on the corner. They need to get their lives together. Them hookers on the corner, man, they broken. I'm not gonna sit here and go through this whole process. That's what they're doing. That's their life. That's where they at. That's not my job to sit there. Man, pull the car. I'm gonna go talk to these beautiful queens and go tell them that they can go do some better shit. Especially if I ain't got nothing to give to them. Why am I going to give you some information if I ain't got that service? That's not a part of my service. If I don't have a service to go with it, how the hell am I going to give it to somebody? That's your success, the lesson. Once you have the lesson, you now create the plan. Once you create the plan, now you got now you understand the discipline in your plan. Now you build. Now you become limitless. Yeah, baby. We got to save them. There's nobody to save. There's nobody to save. That's like me sitting here, right? That's like me sitting here. That's like me sitting here literally. If I put that energy into the space, that's what I'm looking for. That's why it showed up. That's why it hit me. See, as you going through this shift, it's like everything you got to do is based on ultimately becoming the example. You are becoming the ultimate example. Becoming the ultimate example is being able to sit. Yes, detachment. I sit. In order to go through the state of detachment, you must become in tune with sitting in your perspective. Whatever your perspective may be at that point in time, that is your point of presence. Until I sit in my own perspective and understand that whatever is in my perspective is based on me being present, I can't go through the states of detachment. I will always seek to be attached to something. I will always seek a intellectual reason to why I stayed so long and why, because, and then I'll find the book and I'll find something in deflection. Yeah, they gotta stop being hoes on their own. I can't stop somebody from, it's like going to a strip club and you meet a stripper and you tell them they ain't got to strip no more. Because for the stripper, it ain't about the money. It ain't about the money. They may say it's about the money, blessing. They may say it's about the money, but it's not about the money. Ultimately, it's not about the money. That's why no matter what you do, you will not take a stripper from being a stripper. Girl, you ain't gotta do porn. You ain't gotta bust your pussy open up on the screen no more. It ain't about the fucking money. You thinking it's about the money. You're thinking it's about the money because you think stability is money. You think standard is money. You think structure is money. You think that is the primary when that's the auxiliary. That's the byproduct. So your intellectual, girl, you can intellectualize, but like, girl, maybe you got some children, you got children issues, you got daddy issues, you got mother issues, and you are trying to help them with their mom and their dad issues. In a way to make yourself as a savior when you got your own issues. If that's not your shit, don't do it. If that's not you, don't do it. I know that that's my purpose as an occult therapist. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. You got to make sure that you are aligned with your assignment. Your assignment may not, you thinking like, oh my God, I'm spiritual. I'm going to make beads and candles. Okay, cool. Is that part of your assignment? Is that part of your assignment? My assignment, I can make spiritual baths, yes, because I prepare spiritual baths. I prepare spiritual rituals. I do those things. But that's That's the lower aspect of that's lower on the pole. I can do it, but it's not part of my assignment. See, your ego, exactly, your ego, staying in that ego, that identity that you created around your old aspects of yourself, that's what you keep viewing in success. So every time that I'm going to give you a nice little key. Every time something's not successful, you automatically will create the next automatic thought of another identity that is successful. Further splitting yourself. Further splitting yourself. But you must remember, everything that you create from the original spork. So let's say you keep creating this is the state of imitation. The state of imitation is pure attachment. So now, let's use this example in compartmentalizing your life. You have an identity that you only show in front of your mother. You got an identity that you show in front of your girlfriend. You got an identity showing. You have a different identity, a different variation, even if it's slight, that you show in front of every other person. And it matches their perception of you in their mind. That's how it connects. That's how you stay in that space. Whenever you stop acting as that space, don't you notice it get distorted? They get upset, they get mad, whatever. They start feeling some type of way when you ain't acting the same way. Because you have now distorted you are now picking at your identity. You picking the mask off. So now they upset, they mad at you. Okay, cool. We mad at me. I don't give a fuck. Because if you come to me, every time you come to me now, I now realize that one of the biggest things that my pops always had did, and it was a traumatic event that I did not want to accept. Every time my pops would say something to my mother, he would always say, okay, we need a plan for it. What's the plan? But the way that he displayed it was, was based through the emotion of, yeah, we can do that, but then this, and this. So what he thought he was saying in his mind, the reason that it worked is because that was his learned behavior. Let's talk about, because 9 times out of 10, inside of our spaces, we don't bring solutions. We only talk about problems. The solution is in your perspective. Your problem is in what you're trying to preserve. So every time you bring up a problem, you intellectualize why it's a problem based on avoidance. Man, it's their fault that I can't get into the job. It's their fault. Okay, it's their fault. Cool. What are you going to do now? Either way, it's going to be, what are you about to do now? And man, I don't know what to do. You limiting yourself. You don't know what to do in your life. Because you expecting a certain, why? Man, because everything I want to do, man, it costs, no, it don't. I actually broke this down. Like, you have to understand that everything that you do, you put the limitation in. You thinking that you got to do everything into this aspect of once to get that result. The result's already there. The result's already present. You simply having the thought is your first sign. What you're doing on the path is going through your experiences and understanding how to remove your own blockages. What you put in play, you're removing your handicaps. Your handicaps become what you think about. Your handicap becomes, if I ask you what's your 5-year plan, you hung up on the 5 years. All I'm hung up on is what's your plan. I don't give a fuck if you take 5. It can take you a couple of months. It don't matter. Are you invested into a plan? That's all that matters. Or are you invested into a 5-year pattern that you've been living out? You woke up for the last 6.5 years at that job. You woke up for the last 6.5 years at a job, 7.5 years in a relationship, whatever it may be. And then you left out a relationship and then you sat there by yourself. I'm going to be celibate. I'm going to be single. I'm going to be by myself. but you never went through the process of understanding yourself. You did some shit unconsciously, and since you did it unconsciously, the shit didn't apply. You sat down by yourself. You sat in your living room. You laid down in the bed, but you got comfortable because none of that shit was based on discipline. It was based on the first levels of you exploring yourself. But since you're doing it unconsciously, it's time served. It's like somebody being single for 4 years and then all of a sudden you want to get back out into dating. And then now you're complaining that the dating world has changed. It's changed. It's changed. But it's still the same. Same shit. It's just now it's now quantified into the environment based on whatever emotions that people are taking, the emotions that you ain't exploring. It's hard, it's impossible to reject some shit because they got everything can be accepted somewhere. Rejection, you don't look at your aspects, the fear of rejection, your fear of abandonment, your fear of separation, your fear of being to yourself, you needing an excuse in your life. I don't want to do, nah. I need a relationship. No, you don't. Yeah, you need a relationship. What about the relationship with yourself? You're afraid to be alone because you're afraid to realize that your substance is the substance is the sum of all of your fears. It's hard to sit by yourself and realize that the only substance that you've ever had was the sum of all of your traumatic experiences and all the variations. It's hard to sit with it. I know, I've sat with it. Sitting with every variation of everything that I've ever done in bullshit and accepting the results. That shit is destructive. But I knew I had to do it. Because if I didn't do it, this is what you see a lot of time in the conscious community with spiritual motherfuckers in the conscious community, all that shit. You can see when a motherfucker hasn't integrated with an aspect of themselves. You can see motherfuckers are not doing the work. You're seeing the results of, ooh, let's get the hustle. Because they went in there with that old hustle mentality. The hustle mentality is the lack mentality. But you dressed it up and made it nice. I'm not thinking shit about hustle. I'm in alignment. I've evolved. I've shifted. So everything that's based on hustle. So the attitude of hustle doesn't exist for me anymore. Because the attitude of hustle is based on the distraction. I need something, as long as I'm stuck in the hustle, I need something to validate my hustle. I'm in alignment. Everything that is supposed to be, everything that's coming through is coming through as it needs to come through. It's based on my work. It's based on my work. I'm not presetting shit anymore. I know what's already there. I've seen it. If now I got to remove every block, and now I got to look at all these, now I got to create the resources from the obstacles that I put in my way. Or I can just keep intellectualizing it and sell it that way. And that's what you're seeing. That doesn't work anymore. You got this, but it's going to take too long. Okay, it's going to take too long for you. Cool. But you're looking at progress and not process. I've talked about that before. Like every Monday through Thursday, I'm up at 4:30 a.m. and I get ready to go for my workout, my run and my workout. By the time I get back to the crib around 8 o'clock, if I recorded a video, pre-recorded a video, I'm editing the video, looking through emails, I'm going through the emails, I'm sitting in my little space, going through my emails, doing all of my normal shit, adding things that I need to add, assessing things, going with my day. It's a process. Through that process, I've gained new resources. Through those resources, I've gained new ability. I've tapped into my abilities because I'm not worried about what it should look like, what it will look like. I know that it will be whatever, as it comes to me. I know, okay, cool. That's exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm trusting the process. You can tell when you ain't trusting the process, because trusting the process is taking accountability. You can tell when you ain't trusting the process, because that's when you get triggered. But it ain't about avoiding the trigger. It's about dealing with the trigger. Why did it trigger you? Because all of a sudden your homegirl pulled up to the house, or your homeboy pulled up to the house in a new car, and now you sitting there mad because you still walking. I'm walking, man. I still got. How do they keep getting this shit? You know exactly how they keep getting that shit. You know exactly how they keep getting it, because then you knew tax time came around, and in 6 months they ain't gonna have the car no more. You know it. You know. But now, for you, why you were triggered, is like, I can't see myself doing that. Okay. But in some way, shape, or form, you're doing it. It may not be you getting it. It may not be you getting a new car. But in some shape or form, the way that they mismanage their emotional energy, or the byproduct, which is their money, is the same way, in some way, shape, or form, that you misuse your shit. That's the only reason that they're present. The only reason that you can see it. Because you're misusing your shit in some type of way. You always have a choice whether you are to learn or you're going to teach. And that's two sides of the same coin. Because every time that I teach, every time that I speak on some shit, I learn simultaneously. That's being in that state of, that's being in that, this singular state. Every time that I say something, I'm learning. I am aware of what I'm saying. I'm aware of what I'm saying. I'm fully in the space. I own it. But what I'm not going to take ownership is of other people's feelings to what I'm saying, because that will create that creates the bias, that creates the blockage, but you had learned that behavior through, when you think about when you were younger and you learned that behavior to shut down and compartmentalize your emotions. So when you went to school, it followed the same narrative. The school was based in subjects and classes and changing classes for a false sense of progress. Your life at home was based on a false sense narrative of progress. So everything in your space was to match that. You were taught to look at the high school dropout or the college dropout as a loser. You were taught to look at the garbage man or the motherfucker doing a trade as a loser. You were given the aspect of you got to go to college to be successful. You were given these aspects that the only reason that they could apply was based on the emotional disassociation with yourself. The only reason it can be applied. Go look at an Asian kid and the regimen that they're taught. You're given the external narrative. But if you go to study, if you look at how in Asian schools, how they're taught in Asia, for the first 5 or 6 years, they're not taught anything in regards to academia. They're taught manners. They're taught manners, how to speak, like they're taught how to interact with people. Go look at the Bernie Mac show. If you go back and look at the Bernie Mac show and you go look at Brianna, and when she was going to Wellington and they were teaching them how to be little people, the only aspect of that was only from one side. So, nigga, y'all ain't teaching them shit? You ain't teaching them that life is hard and all of this shit? So when you look at that narrative, like, damn, I'm not going to eat. So now you got to look at everything that you're doing inside of your space. I've talked about that before. If you're going inside your space and you still got the internal dialogue of life is hard, you struggling, the lack mentality, everything you're going to create is going to be a variation of that. So now if you have kids, look back at your kids. The same shit that your parents told you, same shit you telling them. I ain't saying it like my mom. My mom didn't love me. I love my kids. I love my kids more than I love myself. I love motherfuckers more than I love myself. That's a problem. That's a trauma. That's a trauma response. But since you've done this shit for so long, you thought it was normal. Now that you find it out that it isn't normal, the energy that you put behind it, I love so hard because of guilt. I put myself out there because of rejection. I put myself out there because of abandonment. I put myself out there because of these spaces over and over again. So now when you start sitting with it, now you start feeling everything. That's you becoming present. You can avoid it and then you can avoid it and go into witchcraft. Go study go study magic. You can go study magic. Cool, go ahead. You can go study higher sciences. Cool. You can go study you can go study some higher level shit. Cool. But it will only apply to that. It only will attach to that. So now it becomes a theory. Now it's a theory. Now you selling and trading out your theories, these intellectual aspects of why you're where you're at as a collective and not even in your singular point. You haven't accepted your own singular point. You haven't accepted you're your constant. You're the common denominator in everything that happens inside of your life. Everything that you do from that common point is how you create everything inside of your life. But you don't want to do that part. It got to be someone else. Man, this shit worked for me. Okay, it worked for you. Then why are you upset when someone... If it works for you, it works for you. It works. Cool. But if it worked for you really, you wouldn't complain. That false sense of success, that false sense of progress, you wouldn't complain. I have no complaints about my life. At all. Whatsoever. I have no complaints. I am in full acceptance and awareness of where my life is at and why everything's playing out the way that it's playing out. I'm in acceptance of it. I have no complaints. It took a while to shed the layers of the complaints and understanding that the complaints came in multiple variations. It wasn't just when I directly complained. It wasn't the direct complaints that I was stuck in. It was the passive complaint. It was the passive stream that I complained about. That's unresolved, created the space. That's what I kept subscribing to. So every time something came in my space, it matched it. So I'm sitting there like, man, but my life isn't where I want it to be. And I feel like I'm stuck. I'm blaming everybody else for me being stuck. I'm blaming everybody else for me being stuck somewhere. But I had to accept that I put myself there. Didn't have boundaries. I had trust issues with myself. Either I was the predator or I was the prey. I was the same menu. As the predator, I'm the one looking at I'm the one observing the menu. And as the prey, I'm basically, as a victim, this is the thing. As the predator, I'm the one looking at the menu. And as the prey, I'm looking at that same menu, looking at who is my predator. From the victim mentality. That's what you do. You're looking at, so now basically through this intellectualized aspect with yourself, you have created your own menu of motherfuckers that you're going to accept and not accept, what you're going to bring in your life, what you're not going to accept, but you haven't accepted the fact that it's happened before. It's not in the aspects of the physical. You can intellectualize the physical all fucking day. That's all intellect. That's all kinetic. That's all connected. But until you tapping into that aspect of yourself and really looking like, yeah, I do that a lot. Yeah. Accept your idiosyncrasies with yourself. You ain't gonna go. All you're gonna search for is things that give you comfort in your idiosyncrasies. It's like if I wake up every morning, I'm waking up every morning, I'm complaining about my back, I'm complaining about my weight, I'm complaining about all these things, but then I sit there and spend 25, 30, 40 minutes on my fucking phone looking at videos that ain't got nothing to do with it, or videos when I'm not doing anything actively. I'm passively a passenger in my own damn life. I'm passive as fuck. So the only time that I become direct is through aggression. I did that shit all the fucking time. I'm direct. I'm thinking that my aggressiveness is being direct. I'm thinking that me being aggressive is being direct. No. Being aggressive and direct are two different principles. Being direct is being able to be impartial. Being aggressive, just simply being aggressive means you got to be biased. Being direct is me going into a space, I'm direct. This is my thought process. This is how I think about it. This is my confidence in owning my shit. You got to own your shit. Right? Every single day, when I think about it, like, use this example. Every single day you looking at people that use their healing, their shadow work, their soul work, doing the internal work. That is their plan B. That is their plan B. Their plan A is to exist as the identity that they are. Try to make it work. So every time that they're triggered, that's when they talk about, I need to go find balance. I need to go heal. I need to go do some internal work. I need to go do some separation. But because they're using the plan B as an abortion pill to not take accountability, they step away for a little bit. But when they come back, ooh, I got on a daishiki. I'm African now. I had a conversation with the spirits. But never can tell you what spirits that they work with. Never can give you any direct line to a spirit that they work, the spirits that they work with, the energies that they work with. No definition to anything. No definitions. They can intellectualize and give you, this is how I manifest, and this is how okay. But then they sell you, you don't even realize it. They sell it to you. And it'll work. It'll work. Or it won't work. But since you don't understand the process, and you still stuck in your insecurity, your doubts, your wounds are still present, that's all that the money oil showed you. That's all that the love spell showed you. That's all that it showed you. Man, this shit don't work. Because what did you do? Everything that you do, you set your intention, it must have a discipline behind it. If you're not doing the work behind your intention, then you will get whatever preset result will come. But you say, no, oh my God, okay, keep being mad. Keep doing the same shit over and over and over again. Keep applying to your bullshit. Keep trying to defend your bullshit. Keep not wanting to sit with yourself. Keep not wanting to deal with yourself. And keep doing what you're doing. Man, I'm not where I want to be, man. I'm seeing all these people out here, like, they running companies and they got businesses, and I want to run a business, but everybody doing everything. Just because everybody doing everything don't mean the difference between them doing it and you doing it is you doing it. And your why. If my why for what I do is based on emotional presence, and if what everybody else is doing is based on relevance, you'll see the difference. The ones that are ready to go to the next level, they're going to see the difference. But that's not my job it's not my job to gauge my success off of that. It's not my job to gauge my success off of that. The quantity. I remember coming earlier into my work, and when I really started like actually speaking, and I'm looking like the old aspects, I'm looking at myself like, I'm looking at YouTube, niggas got like 1,100 and 1,200 and 12,000 and all these views, and Instagram, and I'm not looking at how they did it. And I asked, and I was like, how do they keep getting this shit? And then for like damn near a month straight, I kept getting emails from like different variations of YouTube. I kept getting all of these emails and all of these messages and shits on my damn timelines talking about, hey, Pop Smoke got this many was an influencer that got this many followers, paying this much, paying only $2 for this, or paying $100 for this many subscribers. So I'm sitting there like, oh, instead of me in my normal reaction, sort of me being in a normal reaction, I'm sitting there like, oh, so it's possible that these niggas is paying to get their content pushed. So they shaving points. It's not organic. I got my confirmation of this when I went into one dude that actually like, you see him promote, but he like, people have to pay me to put their content on my page. I was like, oh. So it's not what I thought it was. So it had me challenge my definition. It wasn't what I thought it was. Like, oh, so that's not, oh. Why did I think that? What was that rooted in? Back in the old complex of how I used to work? Think about your old job. Think about your job think about your job as an employee being the perception of yourself. How you interact at your job in this exam, how I interacted at my job was a direct result or an overflow of how I reacted at my house, how I reacted with people. It all went together. So even though it was chaos, because chaos is order, it still was in order. Because I could react, I could keep doing what I was doing, keep acting how I was acting, and I never really had to challenge it. Never really had to assess it. Even when things came into my space, instead of accepting what lesson came into the space, I would always try to intellectualize it to keep myself safe and comfort. Man, you don't understand my life. Man, I'm from the sand and the streets and all this shit. Not understanding that I need that. That aspect or that perspective is exactly what I need in order to evolve my perspective. That's why it's there. Whether it's somebody that I remember, got another example. I love giving out examples. I remember the example of looking at somebody getting mad. I never understood it. This is in previous relationships. I never really saw it. I thought it was normal. Because it was a part of my narrative. Remember, I've talked about these 3 tiers before. There's people that discuss people and problems. There's people that discuss events, and then there's people that discuss ideas. Which tier was I in? When I put that synonymously with mankind, humanity, and the higher self, now I can see that the higher self is the results. The higher self is the solution. The higher self is also the suggestions. So I'm in that space. Now I'm in that space. I'm constantly creating. But I had to understand that before I could sit in that seat up here, I had to assess what was in that seat. Because everything that I did prior to that point of realization that, is what created the problems, how I felt about the problems, and how I ultimately dealt with the problem. Do I intellectualize it to avoid it, to give rationalization to my feelings, so I can look at these people and let them be what they are, but I'm not really letting them be what they are, I'm just saying it to myself? Or am I going to the aspect of the solution with myself to learn empathy in my humanity or that compassion to be able to accept them for who they are, and now I can go through the state of a detachment? Because everybody's going to keep filtering into my space based on that thought. I needed to live. I needed to feed. I need that thought to keep feeding. I need my thought of what I thought success was to keep feeding. I thought success was the money. I thought stability was the money. I thought it was the money. So now I got multiple variations in my damn space, all of their own variation of success based on how they use money. But in the reality of it, they're all misusing the money because they don't understand what the money was. So now instead of me reacting to them like, damn, you could have gave me, man, you could have gave me, that means they could have loaned me, instead of me getting mad talking about they could have loaned me some money or whatever, I need to understand how I manage my own energy. What I bring into my space. How do I manage my energy? How do I manage my money? That's my energy. If I think about the last time I had a job, like the job in the sense of going to a job, I was thinking about this on my walk. I thought about it like this. The old way that I used to acquire money was based on my old thoughts. So that's how I gauge my success. Because in that space, I created that space. I had acceptance. I had validation. I had acceptance. I wasn't being rejected. I was getting more hours than anybody else. But I had to understand that was all based on my acceptance. That was all based on whatever was already present. Because now, on the other end, when I really started getting serious with myself, the way that I approached my job was different. Yeah, it still had a purpose, but the way I approached it was different. Because now I was going to my job, and then I took it to the mentality, this is how you understand everything's synonymous. I was watching a video a long time ago, and it was like, yo, if you're doing anything with your company, for the first 5 years of any company that you run, when you're building your business, building your brand, 95% of your profits are the company's. You must live off of 5%. That means if I made 10 grand, I only had $500 to use. I only had $500 to spend. That automatically keeps me outside of my comfort zone. Just that thought alone keeps me outside of my comfort zone. So now that I understand the baseline of that process, now when I create any products, when I create anything, it's based on that process. For the first 5 years, in this example of that's now integrate that into your healing process. If you look at anything, if you take 6 months with any process, you can clear out a year. I've done it. Take 6 months, you can clear out a year. If you have the intention set around the discipline with the plan of why you're doing it. So if I say, I remember the first 6 months when I went through my fast, going back to the gym, changing my diet, I had an intention. I had an intention of true getting into myself and accepting my bullshit. Through that process of 6 months, I was like, oh shit, nigga, damn. I'm not eating as much anymore. I've told this story before about chicken wings. Like, I remember the first time I was like, I was in a relationship and she was like, I'm going vegan. And the only thing in my mind was, I can't stop eating chicken wings. Chicken wings are delicious. But then I'm looking and I really sat there with it, not really realizing that I did it in that time. But I'm looking, I'm like, the only time I really eat chicken wings is when I go to this bar, to somewhere out with somebody. But when I come to me really eating chicken wings, I really don't eat chicken wings like that. Unless I ordered it with pizza. I don't prepare chicken wings myself. I always ordered them. I went somewhere to go get them. So now that's a part of my process that I'm assessing. Damn, I really don't eat chicken wings. Because I just consume it. I don't go through the process. It's just a pattern for me. It's a part of my pattern. I didn't apply it then because I still was eating chicken wings. But later on down the line, when I was thinking about that process, my 6 months, and then this is when I found Dr. Sebi, and I found out about the duckbill plant, the shit that pushes everything out your system. And I remember it was 2017. 2017. It was pretty much recent. 2017, I remember sitting there, and I remember I was doing my detox, and I remember being at my parents' house, and I remember going in the bathroom, and all I remember is I was over the toilet, and I threw up yellow. That was the turmeric, that was that plant, that was all the mucus, that was everything. I remember laying on that floor, looking up at the ceiling like, I'm never putting that shit back in my body again. I'm never putting that shit back in my body again. That was one of my 8th deaths in integrations with myself. Because as I'm laying there, I'm like, laying there in bed, I'm having all these wild ass dreams and visions. And I'm accepting these. Now I'm at a state where I can't fight it. That was the key. I was at a state where I can no longer fight it. See, every time that you react, you're fighting it. Because now you got to create a reason why you're fighting it. You make it not you. That's not me. This isn't me. It's you. It's an aptitude of you or an aspect. It is coming to you as an aspect of you due to whatever you lack. So the shit that came to me in that space, it was based on something that I was lacking. So when I looked at the physical world, everything that came into my space was based on something that I was lacking. It wasn't about me lacking in this sense of, oh man, I lack intimacy, or I lack this. It wasn't necessarily that. Some of those points did come up. I'm gonna go through those in a little bit. But it was mainly based on I had a lack of boundaries. I had a lack of understanding standard. I had a lack of stability. I had a lack of structure. So now anything that comes into my space, it was, in order for it to be inside of my space, it was always the same thing. I had to comply to it to get something. I had to comply to it. Or they were trying to comply to me in service to something. So in either end of that spectrum, because I was like, if I think back, if I go way back, I'm like, damn, like, I used to do that shit. I used to be in that space of mind with myself. I used to do that. I used to say that shit, speak that shit, be that. I used to be that person in some way, shape, or form. I was cheating myself out of my energy. I was cheating myself out of opportunities. I've cheated myself out of multiple opportunities. Trying to belong, trying to fit somewhere, trying to have some sense of belonging. Not understanding I'm supposed to be of and not a part. And I noticed that when I was trying to be a part of something, I was trying to be a part of something because of a traumatic experience for myself, or how I was raised, and the things that I've been through that I did not yet deal with. I noticed that when I went into a space, it was always the opposition. It was always something there in a physical form that I was not willing to go past. So I would intellectualize it and make it a theory. Since I had that theory in my mind, that thought form in my mind, that's what I would go seek. That would be the next set of lessons that I would go seek to make that shit real. To make that shit happen. And it would work or it wouldn't work. The result varied. The only reason that, so now you got to think about, now when you go back and look at your life and you be going through your shadows and we going through these exercises, you really got to start looking at yourself. 90% of the shit that I did was based on fear. I was out of alignment with my inner self. I was out of alignment with the inner aspects of myself, i.e. the shadows of myself. I was out of alignment with these aspects of me. I wasn't in alignment with them. I was out of alignment with them. That's the only reason that the energy could dissipate or create the blockage. Because the way I was using it at the first time, now I have to understand that I got to shed. It's not about how I was using it. It's the why, so I can understand the discipline to use it now. There's nothing new under the sun. We've all heard that shit. There's nothing new under the fucking sun. It's all just, okay, reuse the process. But if I'm stuck on progress, and I'm stuck on the variations of progress, if I'm stuck on the variations of success, progress, what it should look like, and not what's the process of how it was made, then what am I doing with my life? Why do I keep doing the same thing why do I wake up and I feel like everything's always the same? It's what I make it. Okay, be back. That's just scared shit out of me. I wake up in a sense, ooh, everything's glitchy. I like that. If I wake up every day in a predictive text type manner, it's only by my own design. There's a difference between waking up in gratitude and waking up as I got to. I've broken that down before. There's a difference between waking up in gratitude and waking up. I wake up in gratitude to the lessons because the lessons are my successes. As I can learn, whatever lesson comes in, as I'm applying it, I'm aware to it, that's my success. That means when I go away and come back, when I jump and come back, when I leave and come back, that means, I can apply, See, when you stuck in that old paradigm, the old paradigm is everything's the way that it is because of struggle, because of lack, because of we've been oppressed, we've been slaves, and then you came in on that narrative. So whatever you came through as your past life into this narrative, that causes a conflict in this timeline. You are that you are the glitch inside of this matrix. You are that glitch inside of this matrix. You are that aspect inside of this point. You are the conflict. You are the chaos. You gotta own being the chaos. You gotta own that you the chaos inside of that space and own the variations of what you are. That's the only way that you tap into your potential. That's how you think you're going to tap into your potential. How you think you're going to create anything if you're not willing to accept. And I've said this before, I've said this a long time. I say this all the time. I say it all the time to myself. There's a difference between doing what you want and doing what you can. The difference between doing what you want and doing what you can. Doing what you want takes a lot more discipline than doing what you can. Doing what I desire takes a lot more discipline than doing what I can. Doing what I desire requires the process. Because I'm not looking for something external to validate what I desire. I'm not looking for an external validation anymore. It's internalized. It's intelligence. Me waking up at 4:30 a.m., I love doing it. I embrace it. I'm in gratitude when I wake up. So now my perspective, sitting in my perspective, I can look. Now I can become the observer. I can become the observer of what comes into my space. I can define what comes into my space. I'm not avoiding what comes into my space. I'm facing what comes into my space as what it is in its current moment, in the current state. I'm not trying to define it as something else or, oh my God, there's niggas out here trying to get me or that shit. No, I'm protected. I know I'm protected. If I wasn't protected, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. I ain't die. But there's people out here dying because of the COVID vaccine and bullshit. Compromised immune systems. There's motherfuckers that, what happens if you don't, what happens when motherfuckers get COVID, they gotta be quarantined for I think 11 to 14, a certain amount of days. What are you doing during those days? You didn't set the tone, so you needed something to push it for you. Everything's working for you. Man, I had COVID, and man, I was in the house for 2 weeks. What did you do in 2 weeks? How you go in is your decision. How you go in doesn't really matter. It matters what did you learn to come out of it. See, a lot of times that's where we get stuck on this false perception of success. This false perception of your space based on the victim mentality. You went in as a victim. You came out as a victim. Because now you think you went in you like this. You went in to a quarantine or into that space. You going into that space as a victim or are you going in there as an owner? Whether it's your job, the relationship, are you going there as an owner of your owner of yourself or as a victim to yourself? The results vary based on that thought. When I go into the grocery store, I go in there as an owner of my emotions. I go in there as an owner of myself. So since I've been doing that process, naturally I don't go to I don't go to the store hungry. Common sense. This is an example of common sense. You know, if you go to the store when you're hungry, you're going to pick up everything that you're thinking about in the moment. That is the result of you living inside of your space, not being present. Relevance to your emotions, relevance to your hunger, relevance to your thirst, relevance to your behavior, relevance to your pattern and your habits. Now, every time you go into a space, since you're relevant based on that, everything in your space has to make you react to that. Instead of being present in your emotions, understanding your behavior, breaking down your behavior, breaking down your patterns, breaking down your habits, the old ideals, and intellectualizing everything. Now you got intelligence. Now you accept everything that happens inside of your space. I got a funny story. It was the last time I went to this shop that I go to for my crystals and some of my spiritual items. The last time that I went in there was the last time that I went in there. I went in there, and there was a dude behind the counter. Clearly, this nigga was gay. This nigga was gay. I know that it's not appealing to me. I'm thinking about my last consultation from today. It's not appealing. It's not me. But in that space, this nigga's trying to flirt with me and gave me some free shit. I ain't gonna make you pay that much. I was like, thank you. Like, yeah. Like, I'm masked. My shadow's like, all right, cool, activate. Mask. Don't show emotion to this shit. Don't feed into the projection. Accept what's coming and going about your way. It's the same way that a shorty literally can go up the street in, as long as she got some type of shape, she can go into the store and not have to pay for none of her fucking food if she didn't want to. Is it bad or is it good? Oh my God, she using her body to get what she want. Why are you upset? Why are you really upset? Because that's fucked up. She using her body. She's setting us black women back. What? How? How's she setting black women back? Because that's what they want us to do. That's what the white man want us to do. They want us to keep using ourselves in an exploratory manner. Okay. But why does that trigger you? Personally. In the singular point, why does that trigger you? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about that. Because that's the underlining why. That's your underlining why. I don't care what you do, I don't care what you acquire. I don't care if you go, you've seen it in plenty of fucking movies based on trauma. You saw it if you watch Medea movies. Diary of a Mad Black Woman? No. One of them motherfuckers, like when she chose you, she got taken care of all her entire life and she thought that's what life was, and she had to go into the real world with herself. Learn acceptance of her masculine presence. Somebody actually you keep watching the same shit and you looking at it from your perspective of romanticizing that, see, all I need is somebody to love me like that. How about the next time that you watch or you read or whatever you looking at, how about you learn to see yourself as the other part? I guarantee it's going to change your whole perspective. Be the Prince Charming nigga in the movie. Instead, if you are the woman, be the Prince Charming nigga in the movie. Be that to yourself. Be intimate with yourself. Then you're going to stop the illusion, because you have to accept everything in this space that's the teleprompt. That's everything set up for that. Based on your own, what you romanticize for your life. Cook, clean, all these other aspects. The first layer of external basics for your survival. So now you don't want to do it because it requires you really sitting with yourself, because at a point in time, because I've had clients that literally, like, I had one of my female clients, their attitude of them cooking, cleaning became a foreign aspect of them because they had the Cinderella complex. So basically through their life, they were seeking something higher, and they started treating everybody else through this, what I deem the Cinderella complex. So everybody else became a servant to what they were doing so they could keep doing what they were doing. See, it's when we start understanding these different complexes with yourself. Or we look at another complex that I talk about, that I go into a lot, is the Madonna or the whore complex for the fellas. That means every time you do something, it's met. Every time you do something, it's met or it's paired with something of you doing negative. That's the man's man complex. That's the man's man complex. That means you go fuck up, then you come back, then you do the apology. All of these different complexes are what have created what you view as success. All of these different complexes is what you consume when you look at relationship goals. All of these different complexes keep you separated from your fucking shadow. All of these become implemented based on you not dealing with you. It's time to deal with you. It's time to deal with you. All of these complexes are based on you not dealing with you. Every agenda that you subscribe to is based on you not dealing with you ultimately. Because if you were dealing with yourself, you would create a solution to it. You can create a solution to it. Simple, flat out, plain. If you were doing the internal work, you could create the solution for it. It wouldn't be based on hope. And then you'll understand. Instead of getting triggered by the niggas that have seminars and shit, and are charging like 10 grand for a seminar and some shit. It's a price point. Then you understand stupid shit like, man, it's hard to eat healthy because being healthy is expensive. That's your perception. Eating healthy is actually very cost effective. Once you understand the process of applying it, you're thinking that it's expensive because you still eating the same way. You just want to. So instead of me eating this for breakfast, I'm gonna eat this for breakfast. So I'm gonna eat this for lunch. I'm gonna eat this for lunch. How about you learn? Have you ever heard of intermediate fasting, where you only eat 1 to 2 meals a day? I eat 1 to 2 meals a day. So now think about all of this goes into the aspects of space. When you create the space, you automatically, through the old narrative, you think you have to fill it. So you can't enjoy the space. You can't embrace the beauty of nothingness. You can't embrace the beauty of that nothingness. You don't want that darkness you can't embrace the darkness embracing you. Because once you allow it to embrace you, you integrate with it, guess what happens? Now you can create from it. But it's the process of shedding everything that no longer needs to exist. It's a very, very uncomfortable process. But it's necessary. Stop trying to go back to what you had. I had to tell myself that over and over and over again. I had to stop trying to go back to what I had. Just because I created it didn't mean that it worked. Just because I can create that space, that doesn't let me know that my energy worked. So you got a choice. You got a choice. Either you're going to keep repeating the same bullshit in your life, or you're going to really start doing this work. That's based on you. One thing that I had to learn, one of the biggest factors that I had to learn, and it's like the part of my mission statement of my assignment was, I'm not doing anything, and it's going past the point of reaction. Because once you say certain things, that power of that word, all right, cool, I'll put it back in my hand. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll hold it. Once I understood that, everything made sense. Even if I didn't understand it then, I understand it now. Even in the aspects of knowing. Everything that I need to know, I know at that point. I don't have this insatiable need to know shit anymore. That's a key to your work. You're removing the need to know. You're accepting the flow of the knowing, the gnosis. I accept that flow of that gnosis, that knowing. I accept everything that's around that. That's that cycle. That cycle is crazy. I remember earlier on, I'm protecting my energy because when I came in, I can admit that shit. I was very love and lightish. Had to accept that factor. That the love and light aspect was not necessarily the love and light aspect, even though I had this darkness with me and I wasn't accepting my darkness, I still had that love and light or that projection. So like, I remember like, I learned some information as an example. So like, I get some new information and then the same space that I'm saying I'm trying to avoid, I go in there with that new information. And then I end up picking it right back up. I'm like, that wasn't what that was for. When I do this, in my mind, this is one of those references to me, like, remember when I was in catechism. Nigga, that ain't what you're supposed to be doing. What are you doing? Like, that's not what that energy was for. You went with this new information, went back to the same old space to try to make something new and something that was already created. Stop doing that. And every time until I caught this, the jobs, the relationships, the friendships, I'm like, I can keep giving my same perception of niggas don't accept me, niggas don't want nothing new, niggas is stupid, bitches. I could just kept saying the same shit. And then I realized the longer that I stayed there, I kept feeding it. So I could be, let's use an example. I could be like, I was 6 months, it was like after my 40-day fast, and I started like, I'm now eating in a more conscious manner. I'm more aware of what's going into my body. I'm sitting there inside of that space, but because I'm going to the old spaces to do it, it's expensive. It was expensive as fuck for me in this aspect. Cause like, before I go to my job, before I was going to work, I'm like, I don't want to like cook anything at the house because of where I was at. So I'm going to go by the store, buy the stuff at the store, go to my job, cook it at my job. But all I'm doing is changing around. I'm not changing anything. I'm moving things around or manipulating things into space to benefit me inside of the same space with the same energy. So the same energy that I was shed during the fast, I'm about to go pick it back up because I'm now empty. So now I go to the store, grab the stuff. I'm online. I'm cooking my food because I worked at a restaurant, cooking my food online. I'm helping the nigga at the job that already doesn't like me, the perception of not liking me because I'm changing things. I'm sparking change. So now I go out there and eat my food. This nigga mad because I came to work early, but I didn't come to relieve his ass. This perception, this environment that I'm in, I go eat my food, come back online and every single day. So I just went back to the same process. The same energy need to be fed. The anger, the resentments, all of this shit still need to be fed. So now this nigga leave early, don't stock up the line, don't do some shit. Now I'm upset at him, but now I'm avoiding it because I'm not it. This is my time to teach. This is my time to speak. My throat chakra itchy. It's my time to speak from the presence. So until I learned to do that, I kept doing the same shit. This is one of those examples. So until I went to my supervisors and my bosses, like, hey, y'all know he left, right? And he didn't do this, and this. What are y'all gonna do about it? I mean, I've already knocked out everything. I'm just letting y'all. It wasn't based on validation. This is what it boiled down to. I've already done everything that I needed to do. I'm just letting you know that he didn't do it. I don't need you to, oh my God, and I don't want you to come online and try to, no. I'm just acknowledging that I have accepted that this nigga ain't shit. Y'all haven't accepted it. That's on y'all. First time that I did that, second time that it took 3 times for me to do this. Took 3 good old times for me to do this. Because it helped me assess my own pattern. It helped me assess my pattern. Because I was used to, in this sense, I was used to niggas doing that in my life and never speaking up about it. That led me to understanding that, and after I did that, about 3 weeks later, I'll say 3 weeks time later, that was the first time when I got to work early and I actually did a live video. Speaking about the God Thoughts, my God Thought series. First step. See, that process gonna lead you to them opportunities. But you gotta be able to embrace the opportunity of being in the present. See, as long as you're not in the present, you allow everything. As long as you're not in the present, this is the neutral space. When I'm in the present, the neutral space now becomes the singular point. I am now in my center. So now everything that comes through this point, I now must define. I now accept that I define it. So then I step back. After that happened, then I'm like getting more in front of the camera, speaking more, writing down more, building my processes. Now I came into the process of, oh shit, my timeline is changing. I'm now owning a time. Now I'm owning a different time. I'm owning a different timeline. I've seen myself do this before. Just when we talk about deja vu, my deja vus are crazy because now I understand, oh nigga, my deja vus aren't what ifs anymore. You ever had your deja vu moments like, I think I've done this before, but what if? My deja vus aren't what ifs anymore. My deja vus are more like, that's my sign. That's my clairvoyance. That's my premonition. My intuition is now giving me visuals. I'm more in alignment with my energy, so it's stronger. So like where I was where my energy was once displaced, I've learned how to use it in a different space. Now I'm transmuting. So now I'm able to express the energy in a higher sense. Shit was crazy. I'm like, nigga, I'm doing this shit in real time. Until I came to this point. Now I'm at this point. Now I'm in the know. If someone asks me a question, my confidence in that space, now I'm in the know. Because I already have the information. It's going to come to me. I can break it down. I can synthesize it. I can simplify it. That's the confidence. That's you living in your truth. That's you living in your authority. That's success. That's my definition of success. From that lesson, I can build from that. Now I'm not scared to be like, hey, come back anytime. I got a service. I got this because I have something built. The thing that's going to stop your train, the thing that's going to stop your flow is when you ain't got nothing in that space. That's the only thing that stops us. When you ain't got nothing sitting in that space yet. If I ain't got nothing sitting in this space, then I can't keep moving forward. I can't keep jumping. I can jump and jump and jump, but if I ain't got nothing to jump to, if I have no presence in where I jump to, it's always going to be based on relevance. Think about it like that. So thinking about that aspect of like why you keep doing the same shit over and over and over again, that's one of those good reasons for you. Damn. Somewhere inside of me, I need to prove myself. Somewhere inside of me, I need to prove myself. Still. Somewhere inside of me, I still seek validation for something that I've not seeked in myself yet. Now with me, I'm like, well, I'm gone. I'm out. Peace. Fuck y'all. I'm not attached. The detachment is real. The detachment is real. Like fuck that shit. Because I'm not compromising my energy anymore. Let that shit flow. Let that shit flow. That's another thing that I tell a lot of people, like, yo, whatever emotion come up when you realize it, let it flow. If you get hellified angry, how are you displacing that anger? You're moving it around. And like when I tell people like I don't do yoga, but I have like 3 yoga poses that I do. The pigeon pose is one of my favorite poses. And I got 2 other poses that I don't know the names of, but I love those 2 poses. I named it Lucy 1 and Lucy 2. My Lucy pose and my Lucy poses. But the pigeon pose, I remember the first time doing that pose. I remember the first time doing a stretch. And then I realized that I'm working out wrong. Something as simple as me working out wrong, because when I was going to the gym, it was going to displace anger. When I was going to go work out, I was going to displace anger. So when I was going into my job, I was going to displace anger. When I'm going into a relationship, I was going to displace an emotion. Put that emotion into that space. That is one of the deepest. I think I can say that seeking validation is one of the deepest aspects that we got to let sink in. How much we actually did it in the different variations. That's one of them deep. But like, I'm sitting there also like, nigga, I'm working out wrong. And then when I went through the process of understanding how I was doing it, and then after I mastered it, today was reconfirmation to it. I was watching the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast on YouTube. 1 second. Okay, we're back. Yes. I was watching the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast, and this episode had Kevin Gates on it. And Kevin Gates was talking about his journey and what he'd been going through. And he was like, word for word, I'm listening to this shit. I'm like, he said everything that I've said to myself about the aspects of I was working out wrong. I wasn't doing my workouts right. I was doing it based on validating my anger, validating my emotion into that space, displacing it into that space. So now when I was going to do my workouts, I was realizing that when I was doing my workouts, the things that I would attract would be based on that same level of validation, that same energetic chord. So now I'm looking at the situation that I go into now, like 90% of my time is spent by myself. And I love it. The quality of the aptitude of being by myself, because I work from this space. That by itself, that singular point changed everything in the aspects of seeking validation. Because until I got to that point, a lot of the things that I did earlier on that I don't do anymore, if you go look at my YouTube channel, look at my first videos till now and how I present myself, how I speak, my tones, the tone, the way that I'm moving, the shift, the energy, the flow of myself, different variations of myself. Every lecture every class, it's a different variation of me, of an older version. I shifted. So looking at him, like talking, the things that he's talking about, and plus him being an Aquarius, sitting in that Aquarius sun seat, I'm like, nigga, it makes sense. Damn. So this is when you're seeking validation, you go from judgment and validation and recognition, you go into confirmation, discernment, and becoming more efficient. See, now I understand that now that I'm in the art of detachment, now my connections are based on discernment. My boundaries are based on discernment. My boundaries are based on confirmation. So now when I go into the space, I'm just confirming myself. So my energy speaks for me. My shadow now moves into the space. I can now send my legion, hey, go in there and knock out some shit. Because the craziest part, I actually talked about this in the consultation today. I've seen it. Like, I've seen where people's, literally their shadows, their spirit, their shadow leaves them. And like, I've watched that. I've been sitting in my room. I've been sitting in my room or sitting in the park and watching somebody have an argument. And I've like literally watched like on think about The Shining. I've watched their inner child walk over to me while I'm sitting under a tree meditating. And I watched their spirit literally come over to me and sit beside me for a little bit. And at first I used to be like, nigga, what the fuck is you doing here? Don't do that. But now I allow that energy to sit there. I allow the spirit to come sit beside me because I have to own this is me owning my energy. This is me owning my ability. Even in that space, I remember, like, this shit happened about a month ago. A chick and her dude were arguing. I don't know why people argue at 4. I don't know why you're in the park at 7 o'clock in the morning arguing. That's neither here nor there. But they're sitting there arguing. And I literally watched her inner child walk, her spirit walk, and sit beside me while I'm meditating under the tree. I literally just sat there and let it happen. Just, all right. Breathe in. Breathe out. By the time I was done, their argument was done. The spirit went back over there and I watched this shit happen. I'm like, it's not about, I'm already interacting. You're not having to interact. A month later, going into that space, this same person came onto one of my lives, saw one of my lives, and like inquired about a reading, inquired about services. Once you inside of your space, you ain't got to do anything. All you got to do is keep doing your work. Your work, once you do your work and you build inside of your truth, that's when everything comes to you. But you must accept this process. You must accept the process. Accountability inside the process, working inside your process. Your truth, staying inside of your truth, becoming aware of your emotions. Everything comes to you you are always in the right position. Whether it's you think about an opportunity or an obstacle, that's what you look at. The same person that come into your life based on your relationship and trust issues, that can come into your life that really just needed a conversation, the way that you saw them as a threat, even though they had something to teach you, you missed your lesson. The same way that people get into dead-end relationships because of their false perception of success, because they lonely, you can tell what it is. If I'm lonely when I go into a space, I look to complete my loneliness. I don't look for anything to compliment me. Everything's to compliment you. Nothing is to complete you. So when we think about validation is to complete a circuit. Recognition is to complete a circuit. A lot of the old processes, a lot of the old learned behaviors of our mindsets is to complete the circuit. Whether I'm validated for being broken or fixed or whatever I am, this is the way I'm looking for the validation of this. So inside of my space, me being the way that I am, that trigger becomes that person that comes in your life that I'm the way that I am. You got to accept me as me. Now you sitting there spending all your time trying to change them, but you ain't acknowledged to yourself, you're not changing yourself. You're like, damn, I've been doing that my entire life. Whether you've been doing it for 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, 66 years, don't matter. The amount of time that you've been doing it does not matter. Because that's all of the emotions. What matters is that you are understanding your why and you're ready to do the work. You're ready to stop intellectualizing your life. You're ready to start tapping in to accepting and assessing your life. I desire you to be the fucking best. 3 points that I always go into. Healing is destructive. You are deserving. but you are not entitled. The level of honesty it takes of truth, of you tapping into your potential, is going to shatter everything that you believe that you were entitled to tap into what you desire. I'm going to do Spirit said do a reading. We're going to do a nice little collective reading real quick. For everybody that's watching the video now and everybody's going to tune into the video later. I'm going to pull 3 cards. I'm being told to pull 3 cards. Yeah. 2 of Cups. The Hermit. And the 7 of Pentacles. 3 cards. 2 of Cups. The Hermit. 7 of Pentacles. So as I look at these, we see the relationship. We see the phase. And we see what we'll be assessing. 2 of Cups represents harmony, that balance. The Hermit represents the aspects of the phase of internalizing that balance, what we've been talking about all night. The internalizing of that balance. Assessing where we have felt that we failed. One common cycle for a lot of us going into our space is assessing where we felt that we have failed, where we felt that we came up short, shortcomings where we failed. The emotions behind those aspects is what we have to start to assess. So looking at those 3 cards, it's a moment of assessment. You're in the space that you need to be in. What are you doing when you move forward? Simple and plain. You can romanticize, you keep romanticizing your life and trying to make it seem better, but it is what it is based on the result of what you haven't resolved. You'll notice when you resolve it because here's one major key that I'm gonna dip out with. Whenever something's coming into your space, stop looking for the infatuation or the heat. Whenever something's rising, stop looking at the heat or the volatile rise of the kundalini, the energy in that space rising. Stop trying to react to that and use that. You looking for when it becomes cool. Think about whenever they say you got cold spots in your house, you're looking for the cooling. See, the spirit's cool. The divine masculine and divine feminine aspects, they're cool. They're cool to the touch. Their touch, even though being cool, can actually ignite. See, I had to learn the aspect of how I ignite my touch. I was so concentrated on trying to be hot that I didn't understand it's the cooling effect that sets the tone, that opens up the space. It's time to open up your space. I desire you to be the best. As always, desire you to be the best. Be fucking great. I appreciate you stopping through, catching the vibe in the lecture in the class. I like doing the classes on Facebook and uploading them to YouTube. But I desire you to be the fucking best. Tap in for services. Tap in for services. Everything from readings, consultations, sessions, work. Let's start. I love you. We love us. I'll show you.